About 8 or 9 years ago, right probably 8 years ago, one of my mentors, they actually challenged us to a book, and I recommend you guys writing this book down. It's called The Science of Getting Rich. Okay? It's The Science of Getting Rich. My favorite chapter in that book that, I feel that allows me to this very day, if you say, well, Marcus, how are you able to do X, Y, Z on the life side and the health side simultaneously? I had someone, I think Jada messaged me this morning. I wasn't on the call last night. I guess they kind of went over numbers. She's like, man, do you ever sleep? And my response to her was, and she'll tell you, I said, actually, Jada, I sleep very well. To be honest, right? And the reason I say that is because the science of getting rich is chapter 12, which is one of my favorite chapters, is called efficient action. So the thing that I try to find in business, and a lot of things we'll talk about from a Medicare standpoint to life to final expense and fly issue, but I'm speaking from my experience and my journey, okay? So you translate that in your world in terms of what your focus is, okay? So in terms of what I do every day, chapter 12, efficient action, right? I try to find the most efficient ways possible to produce results. Now, the thing about efficient action means doing the right things in the right order with the right people so every action produces a result. It doesn't necessarily mean doing more work. You see what I'm saying? It doesn't mean got it, right? It means working smarter and not harder. So everything I look at from the component of everything I do is finding ways, like you said, how do I work smarter and not harder? How do I find the most efficient way within my process? So let me ask you guys a question. What's more exhausting? Let's be very honest. What's more exhausting, working 12 hours and closing nothing, or working 5 hours and writing five policies? Right? So what it means is it means that we don't necessarily need more effort. You need more what? Efficiency, right? So there's a difference between if you look at, well, most agents aren't failing transparently. Catch this, most agents aren't failing because they can't sell. They're failing because they're not operating or they're operating inefficiently. They're chasing low intent leads, right? They're selling to people without stable income. They're convincing people instead of solving a problem, or they're pushing products that people don't understand. That creates burnout. Okay. So if you look at, where to really start, here's a principle of efficient action that I try to do every single day, right? Don't force demand. Find a way to align the actual demand. So for me, when I sit down as far as a Medicare client, you guys, kind of give you guys some real tangibles. Anytime I sit with a Medicare client, here's why I chose Medicare for a few reasons, right? They already have the product. This is not a product where I'm trying to convince them as to why they have it, things of that nature. They already use the product, right? They already value the product. Why? Because they're going to the doctors every single day. They already know, granted, as soon as they turn 65, here's a product or service that they need, things of that nature. And respectfully, if they're in perfect health or not the best health, they're going to that doctor. They already have the doctor. So guess what that does? I'm not convincing anymore. Okay? I'm improving what they already have because healthcare is used what? Weekly, right? Life insurance. Now guess what I'm saying? I'm not comparing the two because I'm going to get to the value of final expense, how powerful that is. But the thing about it is healthcare is used weekly, life insurance is used eventually, right? So that's the difference in the conversation I'm having with people. So I ask myself, if your client convinced they need what you're selling, or are you trying to convince them? That's the question I like to ask people. Is your client already convinced of what you're selling, or are you actually trying to convince them? That difference actually changes a lot of things for people. So for me, efficiency means protecting your time and your income, right? When you're selling final expense under 65, now here's my thing, right? Sometimes, like if you're selling final expense to clients that are under 65, sometimes their income may be fluctuating, right? It's like if they're still in their job or if they don't have a job and things like that, job changes, policy lapse, chargeback happens, things of that nature. But the thing about Medicare, they're already receiving Social Security. So that secures it for me because know what, that client has a guaranteed stream of income already. And and they already have a predictable deposit, meaning that can be the first and the third of the month, that can be the first and the 15th, that can be, the actual 15th of the month. They already have a predictable deposit, so I can align premiums in terms of Social Security. So what does that mean? I keep the business in. You see what I'm saying? This is what we're talking about, efficiency on it. Now, a lot of people ask me, well, Marcus, now, as far as lead sources, as far as face to face and all those things. If you follow everything I'm saying, I'm talking about the most efficient ways I do things. If I'm looking at a lead opportunity, I'm saying, well, what's the most highest quality lead, right? Because I versus me saying a low hanging fruit, I'm also looking at high intent lead opportunities. Now, theoretically, if you think of a high intent lead, that may say, well, it's going to cost me a little extra dollars. It's going to cost me a little bit more, right? But I look at the quality of that. A lot of people ask, so like a lot of the leads I use are direct mail leads, okay? Uh, so I take more of a direct mail approach. Why do I take direct mail leads? Because again, the intent of these clients physically filled out this request form. Now I can schedule an appointment, meet the client face to face based on what they feel. They physically sent that back. Now, not discrediting, guys, follow me, not discrediting anything of any other lead source, but the reason why it's high intent, because oftentimes some leads, right, the client could have just been scrolling on social media. The client could have just been filling something out, but that the intent of them being ready right now and wanting to communicate with somebody may or not have been there initially. But if I'm having that direct mail lead is literally saying, hey, would you like for a licensed insurance agent to do a free plan review with you today? They check the box. They fill out the information. So now I'm not chasing. I'm doing what? I'm responding. I'm responding to you. That's an efficient action, right? So here's the thing about another a part to that, right? I looked at on my journey, I asked myself, like, if I'm in the insurance industry, and this is me because I love solutions, I love final expense, I love IULs, I love Medicare, I love helping people. But when I look at efficient action, I said in the insurance space, what to me is the most efficient product that I don't have to convince or things of that nature. So I tapped into a product where I felt like people already had the product and there's an immediate need for it right now. Okay. And it's a tangible thing that I can help improve because when I'm sitting down with a client, I'm looking for ways to improve the quality of their life in terms of their insurance, in terms of their plan, in terms of their needs. So here's something that happens. Because I'm improving their life, because I'm providing value to them, guess what I'm also building now? Trust. And because I'm building trust, because I built that credibility, and all right, here's something else I like to do. There's no discredit to different ways of marketing. I'm a face-to-face person. So like who in the call right now is face-to-face more. So like you're face-to-face, you like touching clients belly to belly. You may be on the phone sometimes you within the communities. I love face-to-face. The reason I love face-to-face interaction is because it builds that trust. It allows me to overcome objections a lot more efficiently, right? Think about it. Clients can fuss and cuss all day over the phone. But you gotta be a bold person to slam the door in my face. Now, granted, they still slam the door sometimes, right? Right? But you have to be more bolder. It allows you to be able to build that rapport. I don't know about you guys. I come across so many clients all the time that say they don't answer calls that they don't know, right? My grandma is one of them. Like she'll tell you all day, right? Now, you can do extremely well over the phone. So special shout out to a lot of us who are doing telesales. That is a very a high quality way to be sales. Just for this sake of this conversation, and I'm helping you frame things in a way of, in addition to being over the phone, you can still have some face-to-face presence, right? That could be your communities, that could be your church, that could be you can be that name that they call Tanya. That if as soon as someone thinks about life insurance, they think about you. That's still a face-to-face relationship, right? So when I see clients, because I'm face-to-face, objections drop, their comfort rise, credibility increases, and referrals increase, right? So now when I'm able to talk about final expense all the time, guess what? It's a perfect positioning for final expense. Why am I saying that? Because of the fact that I helped them with their healthcare, because I built that trust, because I already have added value to that conversation, I can now schedule a conversation to come back and talk about life insurance, right? I can now schedule a conversation to speak about an annuity. I can now schedule a conversation or, for compliant purposes, I can go outside and touch my car and come back in and say, hey, well, listen, not only do I help people on the health side, but also the life side as well. Right. And now I'm more confident about that life insurance sale. Why, ladies and gentlemen? Because of the fact that I know a couple things. I know that this client trusts me. They have a product and service that they use every single day, and I can align the product in the most efficient income way possible, being that that client already has some steady income coming in. Does that make sense? Now, when you look at how do we translate, definitely cross-serving, how do I translate this to those individuals who are on the call despite what you're selling, right? Despite what it is, face to face. If you're doing life insurance, finance over the phone, I figure out efficient action. What's the most efficient way? If you can, I say, okay, well, what's the highest intent lead? That's what I look at. Okay. The highest intent lead. If you have the ability, what's the highest intent way to acquire the sale, right? Could that be face to face? Okay. Now, if you are unable to be face to face or your lifestyle does not provide that opportunity for you, do not feel defeated. Do not believe that you cannot be successful over the phones or at home, and as a mother or father. That is not what I'm saying at all. I'm giving you an opportunity to also look through. In addition to that, you may be that person that you may establish yourself predominantly over the phones, but you may, decide to establish yourself at a local food pantry or a senior community, once a month. You may be predominantly over the phone, but once a month you may have a senior community home that you may go do a presentation at, or like you may go do a bingo or lunch and learn at, right? So the point is understanding at some point, how can I get some face-to-face interaction? How can I get some type of presence if I can? Now, those you all that have the ability to, right, high intent, I would say, how do I incorporate more opportunities if you feel like there's opportunity to grow in your business from a retention standpoint, for chargeback standpoints, from a placement standpoint, for issue page standpoint. Number three, Medicare optimization, right? Incorporating Medicare in your business. Now, again, I'm not here to sell you on Medicare or tell you guys everyone needs to go focus on Medicare. Listen, I want you all to align yourselves and consistently and focus on what you're focusing on now and do what makes sense. However, when it comes to the industry of Medicare and what we do in this space, it is a very high intent and efficient way to be able to sell, to be able to provide solutions, and to be able to build long-lasting trust. Clients I have on my books right now, ladies and gentlemen, they probably have a Medicare product, right? But they also have products for their husband, their grandchildren, their family, hospital indemnity, things of that nature because of that trust factor. Medicare allows you to be able to have a strong residual income on the back end in addition to what you're doing. But my focal point is a few things. Is how do I help improve the quality of what the client already has? That's my job. How do I improve what you have? How do I put you in a better position that aligns with your doctors? How do I put you in a better situation that lowers how much you're paying on prescriptions? How do I save you money on the back end? How do I put you in a space that gives you that peace of mind of healthcare? Right? So because I did that, I have a client for life. So I align the conversation with affordability, right? Do you chase commissions because you know what? This can be a high AP situation, but you know that client really can't afford that policy. But you know your sales, so like you're so good at your sales process that you're able to kind of get that sale. Listen, some coaches and mentors may train otherwise get the sale. I'm not going to advise anyone to align someone with a product they clearly may or may not can afford just because your sales process can get you that sale. Does that make sense? Right? If you're looking to stay in the insurance business, long term, right? How do I find things that build relationships for life? Now, one of the things I've done before in the past is, I sat down, I talked to a client, I reviewed the coverage that they already had, it saved them money. It allowed them to be able to have a lot more benefit. And the thing I love hearing the most from a client is no one has ever explained this to me like this. So what that did was that the trust now opened the door for me to protect more of their family. So I was able to get a policy for their husband. I started with Medicare. Now for their husband, they wanted one for their grandchildren, and they always wanted one for themselves. They feel like serving. So the thing I want everyone just to kind of realize, because I want you all to not only read that book, but really lock in on chapter 12, the science efficient action. And if you don't feel like reading, go to ChatGPT. They'll probably give you a brief synopsis. I'm not sure on it. But efficient action, I promise you, can allow you to really, really look at the scope of what you're doing after this call differently. Here's the thing that top producers aren't better closers. You guys get what I'm saying? So I need you guys to kind of hear what I'm saying. Top producers aren't necessarily the best or better closers, right? They operate in better systems. They see the thing about efficiency produces higher placement. You see what I'm saying? It produces fewer chargebacks. It opens the door for more referrals. It takes off a lot less stress, but most importantly, it gives you more of a predictable income. You see what I'm saying? Because if you're not efficient, you can have a 10K month, a 3K month, 5K month, 7K month, 15K month, like back and forth, back and forth. Now you're on this hamster wheel in business. So in some of the most powerful clothes, efficient action, like I said before, is not doing more work. And I hope that they don't beat me up for saying this, but here's the thing about me. I've been in the insurance industry for a couple years now, and as soon as I came in the industry, I was told that, you know what, Marcus, you got to work from day in to day out. I mean, you got to knock these doors from 9 a.m. to 9 o'clock, 5 days a week just to make $10,000, right? I found a way to do it in half the time. Transparently, not because I'm better, because I was looking at ways to be efficient in things that I'm doing. So all the phenomenal training that we actually get from True Wealth, from Mike and Jalen, from all the other leaders, definitely take that information and let's apply it. But if you can add a little sprinkle to that or a little sugar, you ask yourself, how do I be more efficient in those ways? So I would challenge Tiffany today, or I would challenge Jason. I would challenge, many people today that are on the call, Jay, Carrie, Gabe, John, what's the most efficient way? If I look at my process right now, what are ways that I can fine tune some of the efficiency in all that I'm currently doing? Is doing the right work. So position where needs exist, and this is something that I wrote down. Work with clients who can sustain coverage, build trust before selling, and success stops being a struggle and becomes more predictable. So if you become more efficient, you don't need more hours, ladies and gentlemen. You really don't, right? You need fewer obstacles between you and the people you're called to serve. That's what you need. So again, if you become more efficient, you don't need more hours. You just need fewer obstacles between you and the people that you were actually called to serve.